The movie begins with a scene at Boston Airport where we see how dependent people are on their phones. The main character, graphic artist Clayton Riddle, is also at the airport. He calls his wife, Sharon, whom he left to pursue his artistic dream, and tells her about a great opportunity he has just received. Meanwhile, Johnny, Clyde's son, gets into Sharon's car and asks to talk to his father on the phone. Johnny asks if Clyde will come home, but the phone suddenly dies and the call is cut off. Clyde looks for a place to charge his phone, but all the outlets are occupied, so he has to use a payphone to call his ex-wife. Suddenly, people nearby grab their heads and scream loudly in pain. A horrible noise resonates in their ears, and soon they begin foaming at the mouth, turning into zombies and committing mass murders. A girl grabs a phone to call emergency services, but starts mutating. Clyde sees a crazed man attack the girl and begins beating her. Clyde knocks the attacker away, saving the girl, but she is already dead. The protagonist uses his briefcase to protect himself before knocking a zombie down. Finally, a few security guards appear and start shooting at the zombies. At this point, Clay realizes that only those who were talking on the phone mutated. The apocalypse has begun, and all because of a cell phone signal. At the same time, outside, two planes collide midair and crash into a building. Clyde tries to warn everyone not to use their phones and attempts to escape from the possessed, fleeing the airport into the subway. Zombies follow him, but as soon as they descend into the area where there's no cell signal, they drop dead. Suddenly, a worker steps out of a train and nearly kills Clay, but another man stops him, pointing out that Clay is not a zombie. The two men pull Clay onto the train along with other survivors. He warns them about phones, but they explain that there is no signal underground anyway. The subway conductor, an elderly African-American man named Tom, explains that the power has been cut off, so the train is no longer operational. They'll have to walk through the tunnels to escape. Most of the survivors are too afraid to walk through the tunnels, so they stay in the train car, waiting for help. Tom and Clyde decide to head to the surface. They are joined by Mike, one of the survivors. The group decides to spend the first night at Clayton's house. On the way, they encounter infected people, and one of them kills Mike. Tom and Clayton flee into the city. After navigating the ruined city, they reach Clayton's apartment. Tom suggests putting his phone in the freezer to preserve its charge for later, as they might need it to identify areas without cell service where the possessed cannot survive. Later, the group finds a girl named Alice, who lives on the floor above. Alice is in shock from the events. She explains that she had to kill her mother, who attacked her. She is holding a knife and is covered in blood, but she doesn't look like a zombie, so they let her into the apartment. Clayton is worried about his wife and son and plans to search for his family, explaining that they might still be safe because his wife was speaking normally to him during the initial attack, and his son never makes call. He only sends messages. Tom and Alice agree to join him, but they decide to rest for a few hours first. While Alice sleeps, Tom theorizes that the outbreak might be a terrorist attack. However, their conversation is interrupted by a sudden phone call coming from the freezer. Quickly glancing at the phone, they decide to cancel the call and leave it inside. In the morning, they look out the window and notice hundreds of zombies on the streets. Grabbing a few items that can be used as weapons, the trio leaves the apartment and immediately spots a horde of zombies nearby. At that moment, a couple on a motorcycle drives by, and the zombies quickly chase after them, giving the trio a chance to slip away unnoticed. As they cross the suburbs, they see a house with a sign indicating the owners have plenty of weapons. They decide to break in and, after carefully searching the house, find no one until Alicia discovers a pile of corpses in the basement. Taking advantage of the situation, the trio collects all the weapons they can find. Just as they are about to leave, they encounter a person sitting on a swing, holding a dog. They assume it's a living person, but when the boat turns around, he growls. It turns out to be one of the zombies. Tom immediately shoots him, but the sound attracts other zombies who begin to pursue them. Clyde, Tom, and Alicia fight off the attackers as they flee into the forest, but the number of zombies is overwhelming. Many clumsy zombies crash into trees or trip over branches. However, even with broken legs, the zombies keep moving. The group manages to hide under a boat on the riverbank. When the zombies reach the lake, they stare at the sunset and open their mouths, emitting a terrible screeching sound like a telephone signal. Then they simply leave. The trio discusses what happened and concludes that the zombies are programmed to stop at sunset. Tom wonders how the zombies knew where they were and realizes it was when the boy saw them, suggesting they share a hive mind. The group continues traveling throughout the day. When night falls again, they stumble upon a horde of zombies sleeping in a college stadium. At the college, they find two normal people, the dean Artie and his student, Jordan. The dean explains that, based on his observations, the infected sleep very deeply at night. It's impossible to wake them. Artie demonstrates by stabbing a sleeping zombie, which doesn't react. The heroes stay overnight at the college, where the dean shares his findings. He says the infected are evolving and act as a single organism. He suspects someone may be controlling them. The dean believes this is a war and wants to burn the horde in the stadium. Clyde and Tom bring in a fuel tanker and douse the sleeping zombies with gasoline before setting them on fire. Meanwhile, some of the infected wake up. The group shoots them while failing to notice the flames reaching the tanker. The tanker explodes, killing Artie. Jordan tries to save him and calls for help. Later during the night, the heroes experience a shared dream in which a strange man with a disfigured face and a red hoodie appears. Clyde dreams of him being intimate with his wife, while Tom dreams of the man pushing him under his own train. They realize they all dreamed of the same person. Clyde says the man is a character from his graphic novel. Tom suggests it's time to move on. Clyde, Alicia, Tom, and Jordan come across a roadside bar where several survivors have taken shelter. They learn about a place where mobile signals don't work. At the bar, they relax, have drinks, and Alicia has an honest conversation with Clyde. Alicia confesses her feelings for him and admits she disliked his wife. Clyde, in turn, says he was too focused on work and neglected his family. Suddenly, during the night, the infected break into the bar, and all the survivors are killed in the ensuing fight. Alicia is also injured. The group carries her into the forest, but her wounds are too severe, and she soon dies in the main character's arms. Clay and Jordan soon encounter two more survivors in the forest, Ray and Dennis. Ray mentions a place with no mobile network and warns that it's a trap. He explains that someone is deliberately luring survivors there. He also shares that everyone has been having similar dreams about a man in a red hoodie, known as the president of the internet. Ray, having avoided sleep for days, starts behaving strangely. Dennis shows them a person they've tied up, who exhibits strange behavior. With his help, they discover other infected people nearby. Suddenly, the tied-up infected person begins repeating the voice of the protagonist's son on a loop. When Clay, startled, removes the infected person's mask, the creature even says, "Hi, Dad," in a child's voice. Tom quickly shoots it in the head before it can alert others to their location. The survivors hastily pack up and leave. Ray, who is driving, starts acting very erratically. He stops the van in the middle of the road and takes Clayton into the woods for a private conversation. Clayton notices that Ray hasn't slept in a week and might be hallucinating. Ray insists that those people have infiltrated his mind. He tells Clay that the van is rigged with explosives and hands him a cell phone before blowing himself up. The remaining four survivors continue on their journey. Eventually, they find a house where Clay believes his wife and son might be hiding. He cautiously searches the house and finds no one, but on the fridge, he discovers a note left by his son. It says his mom turned into a zombie, and he has gone to a safe place. While searching the attic, Clay is attacked by Sharon. She's possessed. Tom rushes to help, and together they are forced to kill Clayton's wife. Afterward, the group decides to split up. They say their goodbyes and go their separate ways. Tom, Jordan, and Dennis head to Canada. Clay gives Jordan a can of spray paint and asks him to mark the group's initials every couple of miles so they can reunite later. Clay takes Ray's van and sets out to find his son. He eventually finds a clearing with a large communications tower. A massive crowd of people is aimlessly walking around it, and standing near the tower is the ugliest man in a red hoodie. This is the president. Clay runs him over with the van and then empties his shotgun into him. Later, Clay hears his son's voice and finds him. He embraces the boy, but the son turns out to be infected. Using the phone detonator, Clay blows up the van, himself, and the radio tower. In the next scene, Clay and his son are shown walking along a railroad track in the forest, following the markings left by Tom and Dennis, and talking about the new life that awaits them in Canada. However, This turns out to be an illusion. The camera shows the infected crowd still aimlessly wandering around the radio tower. The van filled with explosives remains intact, and Clay is revealed to be among the infected, wandering in a zombified state under the pulse's influence. And that's how the movie ends. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to subscribe and share this video with your friends.